You know what I see all the time? Someone shares their Maui itinerary, 5 days, and day 1 is Haleakala Sunrise, day 2 is Road to Hana, day 3 is snorkeling at Molokini, day 4 is a luau in Iao Valley, and then day 5 they've written beach time if we can fit it. And I want to gently fold that itinerary in half and say, let's talk. Because this plan is going to feel really good up until day 2 when everyone is exhausted and nobody's actually enjoying themselves. So today, I'm telling you what I'd cut and what I'd fight to keep and how to tell the difference. I'm Marcie, and you're listening to Hawaii Travel Made Easy. Planning Hawaii is genuinely exciting, and I mean that. Everything you look up sounds incredible because a lot of it actually is incredible. But the trap is that you start adding things and adding more things, and by the time you have a finalized itinerary, every single day is a 10-hour logistical puzzle. And here's what that actually looks like on the ground. You land, you're excited, you hit the ground running. By day 3, you're sitting in your rental car at 2 p.m. Everyone is tired and hungry. You've been driving since 8 a.m., and you still have 2 more things on the schedule before dinner. Nobody's having fun. Nobody wants to be in that car. And you're in Maui, and that's a really expensive way to be miserable. So let me walk through what I'd cut and why, and then what to protect. First thing I'd seriously reconsider: Haleakala Sunrise on a short trip. This is probably the most sacred item on every Maui to-do list. So let me be honest about what it actually involves. You're setting an alarm for 2 a.m. You're driving up a dark, winding mountain road for about 90 minutes. You're standing at 10,000 feet in temperatures that can drop into the 30s, in whatever layers you packed for a beach vacation. And then you wait. Sometimes it's one of the most breathtaking things you'll ever see. And sometimes the clouds roll in right at sunrise and you see nothing. And you drive back down exhausted, having not slept, and now your whole first day is basically gone. If Haleakala is a true bucket list moment for you and you have a full week, plan for it. But if you're working with 4 or 5 days and you're on the fence, doing Summit at sunset instead is worth considering. You still get that unworldly landscape, you still get the colors, you don't need a 2 a.m. alarm, and your trip doesn't hinge on the weather cooperating at exactly the right second. Road to Hana when you only have 4 days on Maui. I love Road to Hana, but the full drive is 10 to 12 hours minimum. That is a full quarter of a 4-day trip, gone. There is a middle option. You can drive partway around mile marker 25, stop at Twin Falls or the Garden of Eden, grab something from one of the roadside fruit stands, and turn around. You'll still get that winding road, the waterfalls, the lush jungle vibe. Whether that trade-off makes sense depends on where you're staying and what else you have planned. But the full drive on a short trip is almost always something people wish they'd thought harder about before they went. Multiple luaus, especially if you're island hopping. So many people try to do one luau on Maui and one on Oahu because they figure they might as well while they're there. You don't need to. They have the imu ceremony, the kalua pork, the poi, the hula, the fire knife dancing. Pick one good one. That's the experience. I have a whole episode ranking every Oahu luau I've personally been to. That's episode 95. So if Oahu is on your itinerary and you're trying to choose, that one will help you narrow it down. Trying to cover multiple parts of Maui in one day. West side in the morning, south side in the afternoon. It looks doable on a map, and it almost never is. Drive times are longer than they look. Parking is a nightmare at nearly every beach and attraction, and you'll spend the whole day either rushing or sitting in traffic feeling frustrated. Pick a region and stay there. This applies everywhere in Hawaii. On Kauai, people try to do Waimea Canyon and the North Shore in the same day. On Big Island, Volcanoes National Park, and Kona. It's technically possible, it's genuinely not enjoyable. The map is deceptive every single time. It always looks closer than it is. One more that doesn't come up enough: a helicopter tour when you only have 4 or 5 days. Helicopter tours are stunning, and I'm not saying skip it permanently, but they're expensive. They take half a day once you factor in the drive, check-in, the flight, and getting back. And if it's a cloudy or rainy day when you've booked, which is genuinely common on Maui, you may see very little from the air. If you have a full week and some weather flexibility, it can be a trip highlight. If you have 4 days and the clouds roll in, you've lost half a day and a few $100s. Think about where it actually sits on your priorities before you book. So, what should you fight to keep even when you feel like you should cut it? Unscheduled time. I know that sounds abstract, so let me make it specific. Unscheduled time is how you find the shave ice stand you never would have Googled. It's how you spend an extra hour at a beach because the water is perfect and nobody wants to leave. It's how you actually recover from the jet lag instead of pushing through it and feeling awful for 3 days. When every hour is accounted for, you lose all of that. You You're left with the scheduled version of Hawaii, which is fine, but it's not the same as the real version. Sunset. Actual, intentional, nothing else planned sunset. Not glancing at it through a restaurant window while you're trying to order. Build your evenings around it. Don't book a 6 p.m. dinner when sunset is at 6:45. Don't schedule one more activity that puts you in the car during the best light of the day. Watching the sun go down over the water in Hawaii is free, and it's genuinely one of the best parts of being there. Don't let it become an afterthought. And beach time is a real scheduled priority, not whatever's left over after everything else. Your itinerary should have beach time built in as an anchor. You're in Hawaii. The beaches are some of the best in the world. Block the time. Actually be there. So let me give you a real example of how this plays out. I did a consultation with someone who had 2 days on Kauai, 2 days total, and she wanted to do Waimea Canyon and also get up to the North Shore to see Hanalei Bay. She looked at the map and figured she could do a big driving day to hit both, and then relax at her resort on day 2. So Waimea Canyon is on the west side of Kauai, Hanalei is on the north. The drive between them is over 2 hours without stops. So she'd have time at the canyon, maybe a hike, then 2+ hours driving north, a couple of beaches, lunch somewhere, and suddenly that's her entire day in a car, half of a 2-day trip behind a windshield. I told her to pick one, do the canyon and the west side, or do the North Shore. Come back to Kauai for the other one. Actually be somewhere instead of spending the day rushing between places you barely got to see. Hawaii rewards slowing down. It punishes the overpacked itinerary every single time. Okay, I want to say something honestly. Everything I told you is general. And when your trip is real, specific dates, specific hotel locations, specific people traveling with you who have their own needs and limits, general advice only goes so far. The thing I've noticed after doing hundreds of consultations is that most people who end up with a broken itinerary aren't people who ignored all the advice. They're people who followed it and still missed something, because applying general principles to a specific trip requires knowing the specific trip, and most people don't catch the problems until they're already there. That's what my $50 itinerary review is for. You send me your day-to-day plan and up to 5 questions. Within 2 business days, I send it back with inline comments, flags for anything that isn't going to work the way you were picturing it, and suggestions for what to do instead. Let me give you a concrete example of what that looks like. I once reviewed an itinerary where someone had booked a snorkeling tour leaving from Ma'alaia Harbor on the south side of Maui, but they were staying in Ka'anapali on the west side. That's over an hour of driving each way before they even got in the water. It was right there in their plan, and they had no idea because they'd never been to Maui and didn't know the geography. They hadn't factored in that drive time. That's the kind of thing that's completely invisible to you when you're planning from home and completely obvious to someone who's been there 40+ times. Most Hawaii trips run somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 when you add everything up. Spending $50 to have someone catch what you can't see before you go is about the lowest risk investment you can make in the whole trip. You can book it on my website, hawaiitravelwithkids.com, under Hawaii Resources. And if you want to actually talk through your trip live, if you're starting from scratch, planning a multi-island itinerary, or you just have more questions than 5, my full consultations are also at hawaiitravelwithkids.com. 60-minute and 90-minute sessions, depending on what you need. Here's what it comes down to. You're spending real money and real vacation days on this trip. The goal isn't to see the most things, it's to actually feel like you were there. Cut what doesn't serve your trip. Protect the time that does. And if you want a second set of eyes on what you've built before you go, I'm here for that. All my favorite tours, car rentals, and planning resources are at the Hawaii Resources tab on hawaiitravelwithkids.com. If you'd like to help me out, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps other listeners find the show. Talk to you next week. Aloha.